Space, the final frontier. Well, okay, not really. All right, take two. Here in the Mitten State, welcome to Code 47, bringing you all things Star Trek, spanning the quadrants, the best thing since the neutral zone.
Hey, greetings back again. It is the Code 47 podcast on the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. I am your humble servant, Trek Lord of West Michigan, Charlie Carden, coming at you with my regular side guy, my number two of the podcast, number one of the podcast, because you've been with me the longest and I can always count on you, Mr. Peter Stein. Hello, Peter.
Hey.
And didn't have to go far afield for this week's guest. Peter and I decided that we were maybe a little negative in our last episode talking about Discovery because we are not the biggest fans in the world. So I decided to bring in a ringer, somebody who was a bigger fan of Discovery. And again, I didn't have to go too far because it is my lovely wife, April, recording here 2 floors above me in our home. So hello, darling. Hello. Excellent. Well, we're going to be talking about Discovery 7 and 8. We are inching ever closer to the finale, which I have seen. It was an improvement this week. I was happy. So we'll talk about that as soon as we talk about an awesome piece of news. Now, we know that with Discovery ending, we have the 3rd season of Strange New Worlds coming up, which is apparently we're at production. We have the final season of Lower Decks, which is a bummer that we're going to see potentially in the fall. We have the Section 31 film coming up, date unreleased. We have the 2nd season of Prodigy, which the French have enjoyed. I don't know, Peter, did we figure out if it's still available over there, or was that just like a...
Yeah, it was on purpose.
No, okay, so it's
still out there.
Wow, I wonder how they're keeping it on clamp. You know, how nobody's talking about it. The French just are not that loose-lipped, I guess.
They just don't. They're just enjoying the fact that they can know things that the Americans don't.
That's so weird, because it was always. I remember when I visited Ireland many years ago. They were like just getting episodes of like Friends from the previous season, and I was in a pub, and I said something. The TV was on. I said something like blah 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 blah, and these people just glared at me. I was like, oh shit. I guess what they were watching was new. But anyway, we got some information about the Starfleet Academy show, which is going to roll camera, I believe, this summer, which means we're likely to probably see it in 2026, I would think. But big casting announcement. Peter, I know that you're younger than April and I, so you probably this name might not resonate with you, even though it did show up in one of the DCEU films, which is not a great thing. But we have a wonderful actor cast as the lead in Starfleet Academy, Holly Hunter.
Yeah, I know her from The Incredibles, primarily.
You know her from The Incredibles. Well, there we go.
That makes sense.
There we go. Yes, absolutely. But she was announced as the star of the upcoming YA-focused Starfleet Academy, playing Captain and Chancellor Starfleet Academy. Now, point of order, and I know Peter will back this up on me, the head person of Starfleet Academy has always been an admiral. So I wonder if by saying captain, they simply mean she's the commanding authority.
Chancellor doesn't necessarily mean headmaster. So
very good.
What exactly they mean there.
I know. I love putting some mystery up there. But yeah, her resume, of course, includes, as Peter was saying, to generate the 21st century generation, Helen Parr, or Elastigirl, of the 2 awesome Incredibles Pixar movies, my favorite Pixar movies. In the 1980s, which is more of the time of April and I, because we were growing up, she had a breakout role in Raising Arizona, which was kind of a black comedy, and an Oscar nomination for Broadcast News, which was about exactly what you would expect it to be in the early 1980s. So she is, bringing in, and won an Oscar in 1994 for The Piano, which I've seen. That actually featured a very young Anna Paquin. I mean, she was like 10. As far as the genre circle goes, because she was big in that vampire show. very exciting to have, some serious loaded talent headed into this show, which, if I'm lucky, won't include Tilly as casting because
they've been teeing that up.
I know
that's a alternate universe there, Charlie.
Yeah, I know. Damn it. But anyway, I'm excited about this. So this will set to film in late summer in Toronto, which is the new home of Star Trek Productions. As a matter of fact, they've named the studio where these shows shoot the Star Trek studio, which is awesome. I think that was a bit of news a couple of months ago. So, Kurtzman and Noga Landau are the co-showrunners. I don't know if I know Noga Landau. Does that ring a bell to anybody else?
Mm-mm.
No, new talent. I like that. But we've got some established writers in the room and EPs. Rod Roddenberry is serving as one of the EPs. But in the writers' room, Tawny Newsome, who April and I have met on a number of occasions, star of Lower Decks, is in the writers' room. So that's actually pretty awesome. Yes, Mary Wiseman has sidestepped questions regarding the show, but fans expect that she'll be part of the cast. Maybe it'll help me get over my bias of disliking the character, but we will find out. So guys, what do we think? April, thoughts about Holly Hunter?
I think it's fun to have somebody that is well known in other circles in the a lead potentially role. I think it'll be great.
Awesome. Gotcha. And Peter, you're familiar with her obviously from Elastigirl, but you've seen other films?
I've seen her in other things, obviously the Superman film, but the one thing that I'm glad about this particular casting is she's not like a character actor stuck in a certain thing. So it's not like when Discovery was like, oh, we're going to pull in Jason Isaacs and he's a good guy and it's going to be great. And everyone's like, bullshit.
Right.
Wait
a minute.
Right. So,
I mean, that was one of the great flipping the script of season 1 of Discovery, which, as we've talked about,
but everyone saw it coming from Andromeda away, so it's not.
But he was a great bad guy. Yeah, no, but you're right.
I'm not saying he didn't do a good job. I'm just saying there's times when people cast folks and it's like he's gonna play something that he never plays before, and everyone's like,
yeah, I don't think so.
So in this case, I think that it's helpful because she plays more of a wider breadth of different kinds of characters. So we're not going to necessarily have, it's like, oh, well, she's cast, and so she's definitely going to be playing this kind of person. So that's what I mean. It's like there's more possibilities.
Right. And as we all know in Star Trek, there are always possibilities. Very good. All right. Well, I look forward to this, and I look forward to those snooty French finally giving us Prodigy, hopefully this year. And if we have French listeners, which is always possible, I say that very tongue-in-cheek. So anyway, all right, let's move on and talk about what I brought my ringer in for, which would be episodes 7 and 8 of Star Trek Discovery. So, Peter, if you would be so kind to give us the summary of episode 7.
All right, episode 7, Eriga. With Maul and Locke in custody, the Federation is pulled into a diplomatic and ethical firestorm when the Breen demand they be handed over. Meanwhile, Booker looks for ways to help as Tilly, Adira, and Reno work to decipher the latest clue. Reno doesn't really work to help decipher, but she's
kind
of passing information.
She's kind of Jane Exposition, which you know what, but she does a great job. I like it. So, well, let's let our guest kick us off with her thoughts of likes, dislikes, questions, comments, and concerns on episode 7. So, April, if you would be so kind.
Yeah. So I thought it was hilarious that we find out that Reno is conveniently a former rear bookseller or padded resume for smuggling.
Right.
I love her character. I also loved the 7 of Limes crack.
Yes, I did. I made a note of that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But that said, I found it very convenient that all of the backstories were annoyingly relevant to everything that was happening. So it was like, oh, isn't that convenient that you're the third person that has a backstory that relates to what's happening?
There is, I'm sure. And again, Peter and I railed on this so hard in the last segment that I did want to bring in somebody who would maybe offer a different perspective. There's a lot of, it conveniently works out that, Michael is able to draw A to B to C, and oh boy, I did a summer internship on blah 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 planet and this thing and that thing. So I'm glad somebody else sees it, and it's not just Peter and I being fuddy duddies about this stuff.
I did think it was fun because I love Reno, but
yeah, it's a little weird that even 900 years out of time, or how as they are, that she's still like, well, 900 years ago it was blah blah blah, this thing and that thing. So yeah, it's kind of like, well, it's like Yoda. It's like, well, I was around back then too. You know what I mean? Any other things you liked?
Those are the main things I put down. I enjoyed this season, and but I just think that they're trying to make things too convenient to speed up the
right,
the
and already in episode 7 you can kind of see. So, Peter,
this episode was actually decent for me. The only critique that I have primarily was the interaction between Vance and Burnham in the beginning was just weird for me.
Yeah.
Because he seemed to be panicky, which just seemed out of character.
Panicky admirals. Oh my goodness.
I mean, admirals panicking isn't that unusual.
Yeah.
But just with Vance, it just seemed a little odd.
Right.
He was trying to sidestep things with okay. And also Federation HQ can move. It's not like you're stuck. So, oh no, the Breen are coming.
Does it have little wheels? Have we seen it move before?
Yeah, they flew it to Earth to try to protect it with its shields back in
that's
previous
right.
season.
I will admit, I'm bad at keeping track of. We didn't go back and
it's the second
rewatch
space station that we've seen go to warp.
Right. Oh, yes.
Because the first one was in Enterprise, and it, didn't go that far.
Yeah, right. It didn't go that far. I did dub this episode and come along and knock something else out, but I called this an homage to Star Wars Episode 2. This was passive-aggressive negotiations, because when they're throwing
very
down...
much so.
Yeah, when they were throwing down with the Breen, you got Tara... why am I forgetting Tara's last name? We know her because we've interviewed her, and she's we're friends on Facebook. Right. Tara, say it again.
Tara Strong?
No, that was the end. I'm talking about the president. President Tarina is Tara. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. Lovely woman who we did interview on the show quite some time back, but she plays President Tarina to a T, and I was very, very fond of her passive-aggressive volcanisms as she goes tete-a-tete with the Breen. That Breen Dreadnought, by the way, is super-duper scary. But what's another... I'm thinking of the Nostromo from Alien, that it's just basically it's a big rectangle.
This one is like the Pillar of Autumn from Halo to me.
There you go.
Giant rectangle
there you go.
With a little bit of a
right
mouth there.
Gotcha. So. I was very happy that there was a minimum of Tilly and Adira, just a bit, and that it was punctuated with Tig Notaro, who I adore. Tig, I listen to a podcast that she does with Fortune Feimster, who's a comedian that April and I enjoy, and Mae Martin, called the Handsome Podcast. They're quite funny, the three of them. So I love seeing her, even though she does really, she knows she's a scenery chewer, and she does a great job of it.
Yeah.
So she
the other thing that I just remembered was this is one of the the rest of the episode was fine, but this was another one of those episodes where I don't think they use Raynor very well.
Right? Yeah, I could see that.
Insofar as he's I have had experience with the Breen, and everyone just kind of blows him off at the beginning. Even he uses an old saying from the Dominion War, never turn your back on a Breen, and everyone's like, well, that's racist. It's you had to go there.
Yeah, right.
And then at the end, Burnham's like, oh, well, I really understand you. And they're sitting in that little room off near the end. And it's it just felt forced and weird.
Yeah.
So
maybe a little
kind of my complaint with this character, with this season of they want to have him be tough and do these things. And then they just they wharf him. And then, and then they try to have Burnham do her empathetic thing, which for me always feels fake and forced.
Yeah.
Again, she's not my favorite character, so that's part of my negativity. But,
you see, and that's why we have you here, April. How do you feel about Michael Burnham? How does that make you feel?
I like Michael Burnham, but she is She sounds like she's being diplomatic, but she's not. She's
Yeah.
definitely, she has an agenda in mind, and
and I think that's
everything she says is for that agenda.
Yeah, I think that's the hard thing for me, is where she's trying to portray herself as like, I care and I'm empathetic and I do these things, but I have a purpose, and it almost feels manipulative, and
like she's
I don't like
handling them.
Characters.
Yeah, I agree. I had a note, just some of my random notes. In engineering with Stamets, why is there always steam? Why it seems like it's always steamy. Is there something on it? Kind of takes us back to J.J. Abrams and the engineering set that was the inside of a factory.
Budweiser factory.
Yeah. Oh, and I noticed this, Peter, of the uniform that you're wearing, there is some kind of weird, and it's only on the right side, some kind of weird cufflink. Have you noticed this? Because there's a close up of Raynor's arm where he moves his arm up and down, or you're looking at his hand, and it's right here.
Oh yeah, I did notice something on his uniform, but I didn't notice it on anyone else's. So I thought that maybe it had something to do with his character.
It's basically the same shape as the comm badge, but it doesn't have the same adornment on it. But maybe it does. I mean, maybe I need to look there. But I hadn't noticed that prior to this season. And you're right. Maybe it is just on him. Again, the passive aggressive negotiations. It was all the posturing. It's very much like the Senate in Star Wars, which is my favorite thing to make fun of, because it reminds me of a certain directorial board in an organization that we may or may not be a part of.
Also just reminds me of some certain thing on the eastern seaboard of the United States.
Oh, I guess. Let's see here. So yes, and we do get the big sad death scene as Locke does smash down on his keypad to create a diversion so that Maul can get away, which she does, into the arms of the Breen, and then Discovery has to break out once the clue is solved, and they found we're off to the Badlands. Yay! I think the Badlands gets a nice facelift, which we see in the next episode. So, any final thoughts before we render a verdict on a 1 to 10 for this, April?
I don't know. I enjoyed it. But like I said, everything, all the clues were too convenient. The answers to the clues were too convenient.
Gotcha. Peter?
Kind of the same. It kind of Deus Ex Machina more or less its way through things, which is, it's a method. Just not my favorite method.
I hear you. All right. So 1 out of 10 for the episode, Peter?
I think I'll give this a 7-ish.
Gotcha. 7-ish. 7.3. April?
I would go with 8.
Gotcha. I was an 8, but I kind of tilted it down to a 7. The more annoyed I got with all of the kind of 7-Eleven style convenience of some of the plot development. So that kind of took it down a tick. So, all right, let's move on to episode 8. I'll tackle this one. This is Labyrinths. Burnham is trapped in a mindscape designed to test her worthiness to retrieve the progenitor's powerful technology. Book, Raynor, and the crew of the Discovery must hold off the Breen long enough for her to escape. All right. Peter, you're up.
Well, interesting thing of note here is this is when we see the return of the nucleonic beam from the inner light.
Right.
So that sends Burnham into a memory scape.
Right.
So we see the Badlands in here, which it's an interesting facelift because it misses the one thing that was very distinctive about the Badlands.
The big
fire tornadoes.
The big swirls. Yeah, you're right. Which was, I thought it was a nice update, but maybe they were
had one just to be like, yes, these are.
Maybe they were in a different neighborhood of the Badlands. It was like, all right, this is South Badlands. You're thinking about West Badlands. I don't know, because you know how big the
tornadoes are.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the plain states of the Badlands. Yeah. Oklahoma of the Badlands. Oh, that could be a good name too. No, I still like passive aggressive negotiations. All right, what else?
We have some interesting stuff with the Breen chasing them. More politics. You see that the Primarch is. We all knew he was a douche nozzle, but now you're seeing how he's he doesn't care about anything that he says that he cares about, and also doesn't think big picture.
If he had a mustache on the outside of that helmet, he'd be like,
his pipes he needs to pull out and stuff.
Meow, meow.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't last long enough for it to matter.
Right, yeah.
But
right.
Because he does
finally
get
gets
does get his
converted in the end.
comeuppance. Yeah,
But-
yeah, which I liked.
Yeah, the relationship between Maul and the Breen is a little odd for me, to be
Yeah.
perfectly frank.
Agreed.
Simply because, I mean, yes, she married Locke. Okay, cool. There's a tie there. But the Breen are like notoriously like xenophobic isn't even the right word.
Right.
Like they hate everyone.
Right. Which
So-
was, and again, we're really learning more about them because this is the first time, even, they were a big part of like the last half of the last season of DS9, but you didn't really learn a lot about them.
No.
Where you've learned more about them within this than you ever have.
Yeah,
and
and
of
even
course
then,
they-
like we're still leaning into the xenophobia and how they hate everybody. So it just seems weird. The
right.
fact that the Breen are so willing to follow her, like,
Right.
oh, she's the wife of our dead heir
You're
to
right.
the throne.
And the whole presupposition that he's going to come back to life.
Yeah, I mean, I figured
of
that
course
they
they
were
have
going
no
to go
basis
somewhere
in.
with that, with the technology, but it was just one of those, like, again, this feels very convenient.
Yeah. Oh boy. This is so you're saying Discovery is the 7-Eleven of the Star Trek shows.
Discovery of convenience.
Everything
Yes.
it is a convenience store of Star Trek, and maybe that's a source of our misgivings here. That's for sure.
Yeah, so like there's that. I did enjoy how the Discovery was able to like hide in the Badlands and figure out how to like make sure that they didn't get blown up. We do see the return of the fire spurts on the bridge, which annoyed the living daylights out of me.
Boom!
just
You
little
feel like you're in a heavy
vents
metal.
on the-
You're in a
little
heavy
vents on
metal
the
video from the '80s with all the fire shooting at you. It's like, oh, it's a Motley
I
Crue
know we
video,
want dynamic
right?
things to show that the ship's getting hit, but I don't know. In
Yeah.
Star Trek, when there's fire, it always feels better if it's coming from a panel or something. instead of just, there's a spot on the pillar that just gouts fire whenever the ship gets hit.
That's
That
why we
seems
put
like
this.
a design flaw.
That's why we put this spout here. Don't stand next to the fire vent. Okay, is my station right next to the fire vent? Maybe if I get promoted, I'll have a station that's not next to the chance that I could get set on fire.
We also get Burnham doing her whole searching her own mind. As we find out to discover whether or not she's worthy to take the next clue.
Yeah.
To me, this also felt like another like attempt to make Burnham more sympathetic to those of us who aren't her biggest fans.
Yeah.
And
did it work?
For me, it didn't work.
Oh,
but that's because I'm very cynical because I've looked at how films are made and how episodes are made. I could tell what they were doing, and so I was
and that kind of you felt like you were being led down the garden
because
path.
like I could see indicators of that in some previous episodes, like when they were having Culber talk about his spiritual questionings, and then you had her, and then suddenly after never seeing it before, we suddenly see a scene of her meditating with a Vulcan candle.
Right.
So it felt like they've been trying to like make her more sympathetic through this season to varying levels of success depending on the episode.
Yeah.
And this one just didn't land for me. But again, she's just not my favorite character.
I have. Well, you know what? And good for you for at least acknowledging that. All right, April, you have hung in there. Let's have your thoughts about this one.
All right. So I put down a couple things that I liked. I really liked the side story where Book gets the root from the world root from John. I thought that was a very interesting little side story. And I actually liked that Burnham kept trying things that weren't right just because it wasn't convenient. And so they didn't just be like, oh, she tried it and it's all good.
Right. You go full Mary Sue, unfortunately.
She was failing multiple times. So that part I liked because she had to really think about it. The things I didn't like, because there was another convenient Brino backstory related to comms. I feel like she was only in these 2 episodes so that she could have a convenient backstory that would save them in some way. And I also I mentioned something on my notes about the fact that the Breen were even listening to Maul. I feel like they would have just ignored her completely because she was a human and disregarded anything.
Right.
Yeah, or killed her. that didn't make sense to me at all. I mean,
Right.
she claims that she has something that will revive her husband, but
Right.
Yeah.
nobody knows what this power is or what it's
Yeah. There's a
supposed to
lot of
do.
assumptions as to what it
Yeah.
can do.
It's the assumptions of the brain. I wrote the brain. They love sticks. They didn't really love sticks the same way back in DS9. So maybe that's a cultural evolution for them. So like to clank their sticks, and their sticks are guns, and blah blah blah. I loved Harrell, who runs the library. I looked at that actress. I swore up and down she was somebody who I knew from stuff. When I looked her up, she really wasn't. But she just has a face. But I wrote she's like this museum docent who's also a librarian, and she's super nice, and she's kind of like the girl next door, and I like that. And its character we'll never see again. But regardless,
I did think it was funny how it's like, oh, you need to do these things, I'll let you do your thing, and then they're trying to not die. It's like, did you know that the museum is doing this, this, and this?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have time for that.
Yeah, exactly.
That was funny. I
know.
Yes, it was cute.
I know. And yeah, I did write that book will join us. There's conveniently an article from his lost home. So I'm like, okay, more convenience. Like I said,
liked it though.
But I did as well.
To me, it felt very completely changing genres. It felt very Lord of the Rings to me. Sam receiving an acorn from the great tree that he could replant.
Gotcha.
So that's what it felt like to me. So it seems like had they gotten another season, we were going to see him plant that somewhere.
Right.
Something about Quajon being revived in some way.
I wonder if we might see it later on. I have no idea. I am curious to dig into some of the kind of behind the scenes of how much of the big library set was a practical build and how much of it was like that Mandalorian style big walking back screen, because it was so intricate and spread out. I thought that was pretty great. But yeah, Michael having all the feelings, talking through them, I liked him. I liked it. And again, Peter, as you said, I think in some ways it was maybe trying to drive those of us who are like, ugh, she's so knows everything and this and that.
Yeah, it was trying to have her fail to show that she's, again, a sympathetic human character.
Right.
Which might work for some people. It just didn't work for me.
I hear you. So, but yeah. And at the end, Maul makes a big power play. She grabs a stick after and you've noticed over the last two episodes that the one of the other Breen was they're exchanging glances, or you can assume because the guy's wearing a mask.
Like Book, which is throwing me off.
Oh, boy, I never paid attention to that. I wonder.
The voice sounds very much like Book. So, like for the first couple times before we showed Book back on Discovery, I was like, did Book somehow like go undercover some bullshit?
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's something with the progenitor technology and it actually is him from the future. I don't know.
Ooh, interesting thought. But anyway, yeah, she totally flips out and grabs control. And so now she's running the deal. So yeah, how is that going to work out? We will find out in episode 9. Oh, I did like the little stint of Reese as acting captain. Again, I'm drawing a blank on that actor's name. We actually had a signed autograph of his, or a signed autograph. We had a signed photo of him that was part of our auction last year at the general meeting for the chapter. But I am drawing a blank on his name. But he, I thought he did a really nice job. It was kind of cool to see that breakout. Probably won't end up seeing it again. So, all right, final thoughts before we give our ratings. April.
I enjoyed it just for the story. Mm-hmm. That's really the thing. And I know that there are little things that were annoying, like the convenience of the different things. But I enjoyed the story.
So much convenience. Peter, what did you think of the convenience? I mean, the episode.
Well, I didn't like the convenience that much, but that's kind of the thing. Overall, I thought it was like there was a lot of stuff in this episode that was decent. Mm-hmm. But again, for me, the Breen kind of, the thing with Maul and the Breen just kind of annoyed me, and then the blatant attempt to try to make me like Burnham, I just wasn't the biggest fan.
You can't make me like Burnham. Yeah. Well, I kind of like her. So for me, I'll tilt this one a little higher. I'll give this an 8 out of 10. I liked the inner light bit. I like the exploration of her finally admitting that, she doesn't know everything and she's afraid, there are cracks in the armor, and it explored her estrangement with Book and how I think we can all kind of feel that it's tilting back in the other direction, which is not a bad thing. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for me. April, rating?
I would also give it an 8.
Okay, gotcha. Peter.
I'm probably going to give this one a 6.5.
All right, fair. So to tilt a little below the previous installment. So
yeah,
I hear you. Well, our next episode will be the wrap up of the series, episodes 9 and episode 10, which April and I have seen because of the screener, and it is double length. So we'll have a bit of a blowout episode next time around. We might have another special guest, so we shall see. So with that, we're going to bid adieu to April. April, where do people find you out there?
At the April Carden on Instagram.
Awesome. Very good. All right. We'll take a brief pause and Peter and I will return. April, thanks for joining us and being our voice of convenience. All right. We'll be back. All right. We're back. Hopefully, eventually I'll sell a commercial break there so I can actually, have a reason to split the show up. But yeah, we're ongoing. We're going to keep talking about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 5. Which was the first season when I became an absolutely every single week viewer. And we're not quite there as we get into this block. I feel like maybe New Ground was like one of the first episodes that I really watched. And I was like, yep, now I'm watching every week. But Peter always does a great job wearing a uniform. Even though I'm in the basement of my house, it's still too warm to wear a jacket. As you said at the beginning of the episode, if you watch us on YouTube, I was wearing that for 12 seconds. I do realize something, as we got the episode rolling, probably because we had a guest, that I did not take a quick break to give some love and respect to our Secret Friends Unite Patreon. So bonk. Sorry about that, you guys. But yeah, we Peter and I in particular, we're doing a great series right now over on the program, The Facts Geek Life, where we're talking about Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica. But all of our Patreon content, as well as ad-free versions of our other 3 shows, are available over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. You can actually visit that website. Give us a trial for 1 week, and if you like us, feel free to stick around. But anyway, we do love to give homage to our great folks who are on the Friends with Benefits level. That would be Corey and HG, John Sedorf, Brendan Myers, the awesome Phoenix Sisters cosplay, Kelly and Crayley, and Matthew Keel. The BFF level is the awesome Nias family, Sean, Stella, and Henry out there in the Twin Cities, and Missy Merchant. We are very grateful, and once again, please visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite to try us out for 1 week. And as I always love to say, and echoing Arnold Schwarzenegger from Predator, when he chucks that big knife into the bad guy, stick around, or let off some steam, or chill, or some other cornball line that he says once upon a time. But at any rate, you really enjoy it, I promise. Okay, commercial over, paid the bills, back to TNG. So let's get rolling. I will, our first episode is a 2-parter. I'll blast through the summary of both, and we'll jump on in. But this is one of the, without a doubt, most significant episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. And it did actually tie in. It was about a month before the release of the final original series cast film, Star Trek VI. But this is Unification Parts 1 and 2, which gives us the fantastic Ambassador Spock. In Part 1, Spock is reported to have defected to the Romulans. Picard and Data travel to Romulus in a cloaked Klingon vessel to investigate. And we have some pretty stalwart talent involved in the production of these 2 episodes. Segment 1 was directed by Les Landau. Segment 2 by Cliff Bowl. Berman and Piller did the story for both, with Jerry Taylor picking up the teleplay in Part 1 and Michael Piller handling the teleplay in Part 2. And speaking of Part 2, Spock attempts to unify the Vulcans and Romulans in peace, but falls into a Romulan trap. Peter, it's an all-time classic, but how does this one resonate with you?
This one, I've always liked this episode, in part because Spock is one of my favorite characters, and Romulans are one of my favorite alien species. That's why I harp on how they get used sometimes.
Right.
So I really like this dive into, the subversive part of Romulan society. It feels very ancient Rome and the catacombs sort of deal.
Yeah.
With part of it is they are in fact meeting underground.
Right.
So there's a lot of parallels there, which I find very interesting, especially because it's bringing peace to the goal is to bring peace and sense to the Romulan Empire by rejoining them with the Vulcans.
Right.
So I like all of that. I like that there's also the Romulan politics where you have, spies and shit, because that's just what they do.
Spies and shit. Yes.
There's also there's the whole hilarity with getting the Klingon vessel where like Picard threatens people, which is really fun.
Right. Oh yeah, that was nice. Yeah, and we have a couple of great character actors in this. In the first part, the Klingon clerk, or basically the secretary, whose name, the character's name was Bychek, I think, was played by actor Eric Avari, who you see in a lot of stuff in the 90s, including like Stargate, the film. Comes back in an episode of DS9 where he plays a disgraced Vedic, who is, remember, it was that one with the three, it was the with the three Cardassians, yeah. And then the Klingon commander is actor Stephen Root, who is familiar, probably in a lot of ways, best known as Milton from Office Space. Same dude. I don't know if you picked up on that. Of course, it's more difficult to do under all that Klingon makeup. And actor Malachi Throne, who appears as Pardek, who's Spock's Romulan buddy, was Commodore Mendez in The Menagerie, the 2-part episode of the original series, which you used all the bits from The Cage to bring that into continuity. And save some budget in the first season of TOS. So, yeah, a lot of, and then of course Leonard Nimoy himself, and the return of Sela, Denise Crosby, who I've met many, many times. Saw her just last weekend at Motor City Comic Con. Get to see her.
She's one that I haven't managed to. I mean, I haven't managed to meet most of them, but
yeah, you'll get your chance. But this is actually her last appearance, her last canonical appearance that I'm aware of. We don't end up seeing her on
unless you
screen
count
again.
Star Trek Online, which isn't technically canon.
Right, exactly.
So.
And she gets tossed into books and different things, and she was just in a comic recently. But again, the old adage, unless it's changed, that if it's not on screen, it's not on canon. So that's always been the bit with Star Trek. So yeah, that was pretty incredible. There was a great bit in part 2 that in watching it, and I watch these on Paramount Plus just for simplicity's sake. I do own all the discs on Blu-ray now, so in HD, since they revamped it for the anniversary back in when did they release those discs? Was it basically in the early 2010s is when
Blu-ray?
They put out the
Blu-ray was,
because I
think that was like 2013, 2015.
Gotcha, exactly.
Actually, no, it was a little later than that, because the 25th anniversary DVD set was right around like 2000.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I do remember, and it's been subsequently edited out, but it was one of the great bloopers that shows up in that Nitpickers book, which I don't think I have it here in my library. I think it's upstairs, but it's pointed out in the scene where Spock and Data and Picard have bamboozled Sela with the holograms and everything, and they've kind of foiled the Romulan invasion plan. That after Data gives her the pinch and she passes out, they all go to leave the room and they walk past the desk, and there's like a crystalline statuette on the desk itself, and reflected in it you see a PA wearing glasses like mine with a bristly beard chewing gum. And it was something I had to read and then go back on my VHS to be like, oh my God, there he is. I believe subsequently it's been removed digitally.
Hey, sometimes remasters can be good for removing oopses like that.
Yeah, but that was
one thing that I kind of wish they were able to remove was the guy catching the Klingon in Star Trek 3.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I'm not even familiar with that. What was the background behind that one? And that's a shame because that's my favorite movie.
When the bridge blows up and the Klingon flies over the center console? You see a guy in a white button-up shirt reach out to catch.
No way! And you're saying I could watch it now and it's still in there? Nobody ever took it out?
They may have cleaned it up for the 4K release, but I just remember I was watching it at one point, and it was just like, why is that just debris? Pause. Back. That's a dude's arm.
That's so funny. I have never heard that before.
I mean, it's a blink and you'll miss it.
Right. I would say that of this one, except for the guy was, it was a very slow pan shot and you can pause. And I mean, it's 2 seconds because obviously the camera's continuing to move. But
bloopers are always funny.
It was pretty fun. So, but yeah, top shelf, good stuff. Nice self-contained story that does at the end leave Spock on Romulus in hiding, still trying to carry out his unification mission. And this one got a sequel in Star Trek Discovery in season 3. I think it was season 3. That had to do with the physical planet that we know as Vulcan being a shared home to the Vulcan and Romulan species, and getting them to approach them about rejoining the Federation, which was starting to wrap up out of the burn. This is either season 3 or 4. Now I can't remember.
I think it was 4.
Yeah, because then we also see Michael Burnham's mother, who's one of the what's the Kawat Lamajat? I can't remember the warrior nuns.
Malash, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, but it was a true sequel to this episode, and did include footage of Spock from this, which was, I think, really well played. So I would say that further down the road, my intention is, when we've gone all the way through all of the episodes in season 2, we'll start to cover some of the 2-parters, like with a deeper dive. I would almost say Unification 1, 2, 3 would make a great deep dive. So that's gonna be what I'll posit. But we will worry about that when we get to it, because we are moving on to episode 9. This one's yours.
All right, A Matter of Time, directed by Paul Lynch and written by Rick Berman.
That's weird.
Yeah, aired November 18 of 91. An apparent historian from the 26th century visits the Enterprise while they help a planet prevent a nuclear winter. Guest star Matt Frewer as Berlingoff Rasmussen.
Oh my goodness! And let me ask you a question. Again, I know you were born in the '90s. What is, when you think of Matt Frewer in a role, what do you think of him as?
Primarily this. I know I've seen him in other things.
Right. He was in a show that when I was a kid, so this is 4 or 5 years before you were born, young man, called Max Headroom, where he played a guy who was gravely injured, but he was uploaded into the consciousness of of like a really clumsy AI, and he picked Max Headroom because the way that this character was gravely injured is that he got thrown off a motorcycle or thrown out of a car, and he was in a parking garage flying towards bunting that said Max Headroom, 8 feet or something like that. So thus the name of the character. But he would always talk, and he would like stutter in the middle and be like, bah, 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 dirt, 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 dirt. Google it, trust me. Yeah. But that's how I think of him. But he's a character.
The other thing that I know him from is Orphan Black. So those are
great show. That's one of April's favorite shows. And it did finally end, but I have no idea how it ended. It
ended pretty well, I think.
Yeah,
well, I have all the discs if you ever feel like you want to finish it.
Well, potentially that could be something we could dig into over on Patreon. We will find out. So anyway, that's how I knew him. The big, not to presuppose here before we talk about the episode, but the big missed opportunity here is this role. They had negotiations with Robin Williams to potentially take this on.
I've seen that.
And
Looks like that could have been very fun. However, I do have the only thought that I have on that particular cameo is that it might feel a little bit like Jack Black in the most recent season of The Mandalorian.
That's a good point. Yeah,
not because like Robin Williams would tear it up and he would be amazing, but because everyone knows who he is,
right?
He's so iconic. It
might get swallowed up.
Disconnect with the story a little bit, like
right.
Could be wrong. It could have been even better and even more hilarious. But
right. But the potential, if I'm hearing you correctly, is it could have maybe been a little too shticky. Like he could have been like, "Oh, now I'm doing a Robin Williams bit," instead of having someone who's a great actor like Matt Frewer come in and still deliver a comedic performance. Because again, he's an apparent historian because he's really from the we'll be headed back to a place called New Jersey because he's a con man from the 22nd century. So I wonder if he knew Archer,
contemporary of Archer,
or was he before or after the whole Indie War thing? Who stole the pod from a 26th century guy who hopefully then got it back because it returned to his time and hopefully Matt Frewer didn't kill him or something. So, but it's great, Yeah, exactly. But no, this is a fun one. And Matt Frewer, he just chews the scenery because he's hitting on Dr. Crusher. He's flirting with Troy. He's just very, kind of bouncing around and being like, oh, I'm looking at he has a little watch in his ring. So he's like, dude. He's a weirdo. He's just doing a bunch of weird stuff. And that's really what ultimately tips our people off.
It's a great episode. And there's a lot of silliness and a lot of fun stuff. And,
Gotcha.
Eventually he thinks that he's going to get Data and Data's like, no.
Yeah, he's like, I assume this will open the door if you're conscious or not, or if I rip your arm off or not.
Like
be like Chewbacca.
A great line from Data.
Yeah, exactly. And we have a great run of the mill Star Trek plot, Planet of the Week. How can we solve a disaster kind of thing happening? So, and which plays in nicely with the fact that this guy is a historian and our people would love to know, hey, if we tried this thing, is it going to make the planet explode or burn off the atmosphere? And he's like, well, I really can't tell you. Temporal Prime Directive, where he doesn't really know anyway. So
which always should have been the indicator that he's not a real historian, because it's like you'd think that a real historian from the future with the Temporal Prime Directive would not make their presence known.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they would observe and not, but not where his whole thing was. He showed up and he's like, "I came to watch and not interfere, but I'm going to sit here on the bridge with you." Exactly. So, well, cool. All right. Any further thoughts? We're good. Time to move on.
I mean, it's a good episode.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Very good. Well, episode 10 is New Ground. And again, if memory serves, I feel like this might have been like the episode. I'm like, yep, I'm into Star Trek now. I'm going to watch it every week. And I started, this will be hilarious to you, though maybe you had some experience with it. I used to tape it on Channel 3, which is our CBS station here in West Michigan, it's down in Kalamazoo. And I would pause out the commercials. But the thing that was obnoxious about TV3 back in those days, and again, this is so prehistory because it's over 30 years ago, they used to have a tracking issue where 24/7, 365, their signal on cable anyway, would have this tiny thin band of white static that would go, it would just be like on a roll up the screen. So any of those old tapes, and I don't own any of them anymore, that are taped like that would have that. But DS9, which aired on Fox 17, the station my mom worked for, did not have that problem. So it was always super annoying. But anyway, New Ground, that was quite a tangent, was directed by Robert Scheer. The story is by Sarah and Stuart Charno, not names that I know, so potentially not staffers, and teleplay by Grant Rosenberg. So you got some people that, if they were regular names on the writing staff, I don't remember hearing much about them. This is from December of 1991. Worf tries to be a father to his son Alexander, who, of course, has fallen victim to very rapid aging. He should be about 2 years old at this point, and
like
he's
5.
He's like
five
or 7, yeah, exactly. But again, he's an alien, so you don't really know how they age. His son Alexander, while the Enterprise helps to test a new propulsion technology, again, a very kind of Star Trek-y B plot that ends up putting the ship in danger. So we get a return appearance by Worf's mother, but not his father, and she is a wonderful actress. I believe both of the actors who we met playing Worf's foster parents in the episode Family last season are Broadway actors, so they're classic, very talented folks. So that was great. And then there's some great early interaction there. And Worf is just not ready to be a dad every day. You know what I mean? Because he wasn't ready when he found out about Alexander last season. And then, the love of his life, Kalar, is murdered. Wasn't ready for that. Hey, at least got to avenge him. That was pretty sweet. Got to plunge a batleth into Duras's chest. I mean, that was pretty satisfactory.
That was good. Yeah.
But but now, instead of just pawning this kid off on his parents, the kid's like, no, I need, I want my dad in my life. And Worf happens to live on a ship where there's family, so can't really get away from it. So, his mom comes on, makes the pitch, and he's like, well, what am I going to say? He's my son, and I guess I'll give it a try. But Worf doesn't know what he's doing. And then you start to see the real germination in the relationship between Worf and Troy, which kind of dances on the edge of romance, and thank God they made that go away because it really didn't work. But they become really great friends, and she becomes quite a confidant to him and quite a maternal figure, I think, to Alexander, as you see things evolve between now and the next 2 seasons, the end of the series. But I thought it was a great episode, and for anyone who has had a challenging relationship with their own dad, which is literally everyone ever, or someone who's had a challenging relationship with their children, which I have had, I thought that this was a great one. It means something more to me now watching it than it certainly did when I was, 15 years old when I saw it for the first time. So I thought it was a great episode.
Yeah. There's not much more to say.
Yeah. And like I said, the Star Trek-y plot with the Soliton wave. It's funny. The planet that they pointed out is called B'Elanna 3, and then B'Elanna Torres is one of the main characters in Voyager. So I guess they pull names of things out of a hat, characters or planets. The characters or planets game that could be a Star Trek Mad Libs that we create, make a bunch of money. Oh, all right. Oh, sorry. Ooh. Okay, so next one's yours.
Next one, episode 11, Hero Worship, directed by Patrick Stewart, story by Hilary J. Bader, teleplay by Joe Minosky. Aired January 6, 1992. Data saves the life of an orphan boy who begins to emulate him. That is the story.
I hear it. It's funny.
More to it.
We just watched a BBC series, and I would ask you if you've seen it, but it was actually super hard to track down. But it was called Humans, and the star of it was The star of it was Gemma Chan, who was one of the main characters in Marvel's The Eternals, which hopefully, if you've had to see it, you haven't been forced to see it twice because it was really bad. It was the beginning of a long series of missteps that I think a lot of us feel the MCU has taken since Endgame. But anyway, I think she's really great. But something you'll love this. Something that reminds me of this episode is first of all, as I said, the series was very hard to find. I had to purchase the first season on DVD, which was like $12, and the other 2 seasons we watched on Hoopla, which you can get through the local library for free. I know it's weird. There was only 3 seasons of like 8 episodes each, and you know what? It was very good, but it was all about synthetic life, which it's kind of like, Kill All Humans. It was like what went wrong in Battlestar Galactica, but it hadn't really gone wrong yet. But all the robots around the house were servants and whatever it is, and some of them were sex robots, whatever. But the part of that kind of ties back to this is in the second season, a human character is doing one of these. I identify as a robot. So they were, and it was a teenage girl at the school of one of the members of the family that's at the center of the show, a female character. She was black, and it was played by Letitia Wright, who plays the sister in the Black Panther series. Who was the main character in Wakanda Forever? And forgetting Shuri. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. But this was her, obviously, several years before Black Panther, because this show came out in like, I think 2014, 2015. But anyway, it made me think of Timothy, who's the kid in this series. The Enterprise comes along, a ship that had been in a disaster in a nebula, and this kid was the only survivor on this little science ship. Both of his parents are dead, and he emulates Data, who he sees as his, emancipator, who saved his life. And he's like, I'm going to be an android, and the facade holds up for a little while. But this is a very Troy-heavy episode where she's like, well, what he's thinking is blah, 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 blah. So a lot of psychobabble, and he's like, well, he's doing this to not deal with his feelings and this thing and that thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's okay. But kid-focused episodes, I mean, they come along, and you would expect that they would come along in a show like this, where you have a ship that's a mix of a military ship and a civilian population. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was one of my favorites. So Brent Spiner does what Brent Spiner does, and he's always great. Kid actors are always iffy. This kid's not bad, and it's not a flawed, kind of principle of the story, but
no.
I just didn't really dig it myself. I've never really thought it was one that I'd be like, oh, okay, I got to jump right back to hero worship. You know what I mean? I just didn't really dig on it that much.
It's a solid episode, but it's not one that I'm going to go back and watch over and over again.
Yeah. No, they really, and at the end of it, the kid snaps out of it, and he helps the Enterprise figure out that the nebula, if you raise your shields, it'll make your ship blow up, and so then he ends up saving the day, and then everything ends up being fine. So but yeah, absolutely not one of my favorites. Okay, episode 12 is yours.
Oof.
Uncomfortable.
Okay, episode 12, if you haven't guessed already, is Violations, directed by Robert Weimer, story by Sherry Goodharts and T. Michael and Pamela Gray, teleplay by Pamela Gray and Jerry Taylor, aired January 27 of 92. A telepathic alien traveling aboard the Enterprise telepathically molests Troy and invades the minds of Beverly Crusher and William Riker. It's about as pleasant as it sounds.
It's so... And again, you've got a story. First of all, who the hell is T. Michael? I don't know. It's probably a pseudonym
for T. Michael and Pamela Gray.
Oh, very good. Okay, well, I was hoping T. Michael wasn't some kind of euphemism for Michael Jackson, but I know that joke is very poor humor. I apologize. But yeah, it's like, ugh. Yeah. There's really nothing great about this episode, because you get... basically the mind rape and the molesting, and what is and even of Beverly and Will, it's not quite as, because this bad alien, his name is Terramin. Now I can't remember the name of the character, but it's a group of these, and it's a father and an older woman who's not his mother. I'm not sure if she's his mother. And then this guy, he's kind of a creep anyway, but he takes an interest in Troy and decides to get into her brain, and flips out, because you can.
She's not his mother. She's one of those. she's just someone else that
Yeah.
has been dragged along.
I didn't think so. But anyway, yeah, he uses his powers to manipulate and then, like I said, drive them into comas. And naturally, our crew, backtracks it and finds out that everywhere these people have gone, there have been, comas that look like they're naturally occurring, whatever it is, and it's this guy. And at the last minute, I love the last scene was really when, the son manages to frame the father, and so he's locked up. But you have a last scene with Troy and the guy who's really the bad guy, and he's like, "Why'd you have to be so nice?" And he's about to do it again, and then they get into a slap fight. And then, but that's not even the ridiculous part of it. Then Worf walks in, and the guy steps towards Worf, and Worf bitch slaps this guy and knocks his ass to the ground. That could be the best part of the episode. That's all I'm saying. Oh, yeah. A Worf bitch slap is going to win every episode.
Yep. I mean, especially when it just puts someone on the ground. It's great.
Yeah. That was awesome. Yeah. You sometimes forget that Worf, even though he had his Donna Reed hair at this point, is still an unbelievable badass. Though all of his real badass moments are yet to come, and they really happen in DS9.
Yeah,
like the Dominion prison game.
Primarily through this. Through TNG, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was a very unpleasant episode. But again,
the one interesting thing in this is we get some flashbacks to Beverly and Picard,
right
after the Stargazer incident.
Right.
So there's a little bit of it's a memory. It's a doofed up, horrific thing that this bozo is using, but it's still interesting to have a little bit of
right. And you get the cameo of the dead body of actor Doug Wirt, who played Jack Crusher. Jack Crusher, the father, not Jack Crusher, the eventual son, who was not actually Jack Crusher's son, but it's a whole thing from Picard. Yes. Oh man, I rewatched. I probably mentioned this in our I think on our Discord recently, but I was on Trek Core, and they said screen caps the last episode of Picard, and I started looking at that, and it kind of led me to watch the episode again. God, it's really solid. Really, really love that last send off of the TNG crew. So much better than Nemesis, but then again, that's a very low bar.
It's a very low bar.
Oh my gosh! All right,
interestingly enough, Nemesis has a top callback to this.
Oh my god. Yes, it does. Yeah, you're right. It's a very big piece of it. So, all right. Final episode is the Masterpiece Society. Winrich Colby does the directing. Again, story by James Caan, the actor. No, it's spelled Caan like Caan. And Adam Belanoff. Again, names I don't know, so maybe from the slush pile. Teleplay is Belanoff and Michael Piller. So I do notice that when we see names that are really out of whack, the teleplay is usually done by somebody, a name that we know.
Pillar, usually the ones
they do. Yeah, they do kind of the mop up work to make sure it's not too far off base. So, from Feb of '92, the Enterprise helps a far-flung eugenic human colony avoid destruction, but upsets its delicate balance by ending 200 years of isolation. And thank God I've seen this episode a bunch of times, because I was watching this a couple of days ago, and it was an early evening, and I must have had a long day because I definitely fell asleep in the middle of it. But I still know the plot really well. And that is not to say that it was a boring episode, because I thought...
No, it's a really interesting one.
This had a great, again, very dyed-in-the-wool Star Trek-y plan. It's Planet of the Week. How do we save these people from dying? But yeah, you're getting a concept where it's a carefully manipulated, laid out society, but it's not like they're not like augments. They're not like, we're an isolated society and we're all super killers. They're normal people that left Earth 200 years prior. So sometime, after Enterprise, but before TOS, and they built this, dome. It's funny that they left Earth in a time when the Federation existed, but there was no record of them. So I thought that was kind of weird. I don't know that was addressed. I'm not sure.
No, I mean, it's possible that they left from a different colony.
It could have been
another Earth colony and just kind of vanished, because there have been stories of that sort of thing happening, of just
gotcha. Very
Terrans
good point.
vanishing into the ether.
Right. But yeah, these people went out to this completely inhospitable planet, and they live under a biodome. And we get some faces that we see. We get actor Ron Canada, who comes back in DS9 and plays the Klingon attorney who tries to put Worf away for not killing all those Klingons who walked in the middle of the battle. And then actress, I'm always going to screw up her name, but I recognize her. But she romanced Odo in an episode before he and Kira got together, when he was still I think he was still. I think he was a human at that point, but he had to solve an investigation. She was central to it. But yeah, and then the actor who played Aaron Connor, who is the main guy, is just a character actor. We've seen in a bunch of stuff, and he gets involved, romantically with Troy. But at the end of it, the female character orchestrates a way to say, even though the Enterprise solves the planet by moving this stellar core fragment that's going to destroy the world, she creates a fake scenario where she's like, oh, we still got to evacuate. And Geordi figures it out. And he's like, why are you doing this? She's like, well, you know what? After seeing everything that exists outside the dome, I don't want to live here anymore. And there's a small other group of people. And Aaron Connor, who's the main guy, tries to stop her from doing it. He's like, but if you leave, our whole thing will fall apart. And I'm like, it couldn't last forever. You know what I mean? And how bad could it possibly be? So, yeah, it is interesting because these people are so narrow-minded that they think that, well, if we start moving puzzle blocks, there's no way we'll ever survive. But I'm like, nobody else does what you guys do. Other people just have colonies where people have jobs and they have replicators to make food, and different people have different talents and this thing or that thing.
Adaptation is a necessary part of human existence. That's
exactly.
These guys don't do.
Yeah, so they've totally lost touch with the basics of what life is like elsewhere in the galaxy, in the Federation or outside the Federation. So It's interesting because these people are just so super kind of up their own butt would be the best way I could describe it. Yeah. But it's interesting because at the end of the day, it's, I think Hannah is the woman's name, and a group of these people do go aboard the Enterprise, and they obviously go off and live lives elsewhere in the Federation. So yeah, it would be one of those that'd be like, it'd be curious to see what has happened, but it seems like this would be more of maybe a one-off gag in an episode of Lower Decks, as opposed to like an entire episode or even part of an episode trying to explore it. But yeah, I thought it was a fascinating episode.
Yeah, it's a really interesting episode, and it's one of those ones that actually does a lot of good things with Geordi, I think.
Yeah,
because it allows him to talk about himself in a not weird way.
Yeah,
like the relationship that he has with the scientist
Hannah. Yeah,
Hannah is solid. It's not weird. It's not any of the thing that they normally do to Geordi.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm falling in love with you. Oh, I think I like you just as a friend. Yeah, it's not romantic.
Like how Geordi is able to, how the interesting thing about how the way that they solve the problem is using a technology that was invented for him.
Yeah,
is one of those things of like, you see how the Masterpiece Society, one of their goals is to remove all, basically anything that they perceive as an issue.
Right.
With humans, which is where the eugenic idea comes in.
Right.
And so you see like one of those lines that's really great that I think that Geordi says is like, isn't it ironic that
don't you think
that a piece of technology invented for someone who never would have existed in your society is what saves you. And, and there's a lot that resonates there, but with a lot of things that goes on in modern society. And so it's just a really good line there. Like, there's things that we think are good, and then there's things that the ramifications are, they might not be.
Right.
So yeah, it's really good. It's a really good thing. And it's something that like a lot of people kind of gloss over this episode, because of like, they don't want to, they don't like that. They get uncomfortable with it, but it's something that people should really think about.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. Awesome. Well, that takes us through the episodes of this segment. So as always, we'll go through and we will pick a favorite and a least favorite. And I get the feeling there's a good chance we'll probably be in alignment. But what's your number one and what's your number zero? Negative. Your number -1.
Yeah, more like -15. But yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of have to go with unification. Because
the glob, the two of them together.
Yeah, because it's Spock, it's Romulans, it's all the Romulan bullshit, but Romulan bullshit done right.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, that I just really appreciate, because this is again one of those episodes that does Romulans as Romulans, not just like your mustache twirling ding dong,
like the brain, like we were talking about.
Bending the pipes,
bending the pipes. Well, I mean, I'm in complete agreement, and I do love, even though you and I do sometimes most of the time knock on Discovery, when they added a third part to the unification story, I think it really delivered because it fulfilled Spock's dream, 800 years later. And I thought that was totally awesome. So yeah, I will totally agree with you. And again, when we get to a least favorite, all right, say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3 violations. Yeah. Oh my God. It was, it's not like it was a story that needed to be told. Maybe it did. Maybe somebody
is
really
it touching on something that's a thing that needs to be talked about. Sure. But
there's no doubt. Yeah, exactly.
It's not my favorite episode to watch.
Exactly. Yeah. And it doesn't do it in a way. It's not like, the episode Stigma in Enterprise where, T'Pol is violated and there's a stigma around it. So she doesn't want to talk about it or can't talk about it, or she'll be penalized for talking about it. In this regard, it's evil is caught, evil is punished. Even though Picard does have that, one of these, we don't have a punishment to fit your crime kind of deal at the end of it, because they're not familiar with kind of how that works. So, but yeah, it's a really tough watch. But overall, I mean, a great crop of episodes. And again, as we went through it, we have a lot of stuff that I feel like, even though I'd have to go back and really dig, that kind of came from the spec script slush pile, which means you get a lot of variety. You don't get all of the same things, which is what I feel like maybe in later shows like in Voyager and in Enterprise, they didn't have that benefit. So they ended up with a lot of the writing room is coming up. Here's the same, here's the dartboard, and here's the same 10 plot points. So-and-so is in trouble because
like
this
Enterprise, where it's like, hey, this episode feels like whatever from Next Generation, or this feels like it's a clone of this episode from Voyager.
Exactly. Where at least, like them or don't like them, a lot of these episodes were definitely unique. So, well, cool. All right. Well, that wraps us up. Peter, before we get your outro, I do want to give a plug to the Secret Friends Unite mailbag. We are very interested in hearing from people, either via email or certainly on our Secret Friends Unite Discord in the channel. What are you enjoying in Star Trek right now? Listen to this episode. Do you agree with some of the things we said? Do you disagree with some of the things we said? Do you love or hate Discovery? Do you think, do you think Violations was a great episode of Star Trek? I don't know. I'd love to hear about it. secretfriendsunite@gmail.com is our email. It's also in the show notes. So definitely click on it. And also, at the podcast catcher of your choice, give us a 5-star rating. It helps spread the word about the show. Tell a friend that you like our show, because that's how we get new listeners, and that's what we love to have. But Peter, where do people find you out there?
Well, you can find me out on the interwebs at Petrus Aquinas. You can generally mostly just find me on Discord. I'm not terribly active anywhere else, although if you ping me, I might say something. Otherwise, you can find me on ELH's Twitch channel, playing various Star Trek games. And you can also find me behind the scenes at Starship Excelsior, a fan audio drama.
Totally awesome. And you can find me mostly these days over on Threads and Instagram as the C3, spelled out TheCeeThree, and also, of course, on our Secret Forums threads as well. But the most fun corner of Discord, don't look it up, is our Secret Friends Unite Discord. We do have a lot of fun talking about geek stuff, sharing memes, and overall talking about things related to the world. So that this has been great fun. And again, our next episode will probably be a little longer one, because we're going to be talking about the end of Discovery. But I'm looking forward to it. Friends, as always, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and to keep on trekking.
Peace and long life.
Nanu Nanu.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.